Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona and welcome to the 2021 TimeformUS Road to the Kentucky Derby Series. Big weekend of Kentucky Derby preps on tap. We have 3 of them across the country. I did videos on the San Felipe at Santa Anita, the Tampa Bay Derby at Tampa Bay Downs, but the focus of this video is on New York's prep for the Kentucky Derby, the Grade 3 Gotham on Saturday at Aqueduct, a one-turn mile offering 50 Kentucky Derby qualifying points to the winner of this race. Let's throw up the field. 8 horses entered for this race, and we've got a pretty strong hand being held by Chad Brown, who has the morning line favorite in the number 3 highly motivated. I'm the morning line maker at Naira. I made this horse 8-5 on the morning line. I imagine the public's going to go in this direction, though. Bob Baffert also has a runner in this race, Shipping East, and I imagine he'll take some money as well, that being the number 7 Freedom Fighter. Both of these horses, interestingly enough, are stretching out to a route distance for the first time, though it is just a one-turn mile, so that you can get some sprinter milers who do well in the Gotham. We'll see if these are those types that can get the mile distance, but we've got some other horses in this race, including a couple turning back in distance, like Wipe the Slate and Capo Kane, and a very intriguing recent maiden winner also from the Chad Brown barn, the number 5 Crowded Trade. So 5 real contenders in this race. We'll talk about them all, but before we get into that, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this race. And as I said, there are some stretching out sprinters in here, so it's really no surprise that we've got some horses who are expected to show speed, and the TimeformUS pace projector is predicting a fast pace. The 2 horses shown towards the front end are those 2 California shippers, the number 4 Wipe the Slate and the number 7 Freedom Fighter. I've got to imagine that Freedom Fighter for Bob Baffert's going to go on and take the early lead here, given the high speed that he's shown in his first couple of starts. But there are other horses shown right in behind who also have tactical speed, like your favorite, the number 3 Highly Motivated, who's been a stalker in his prior races. Capo Kane, he's done his best running on the lead, so his connections might have to elect to rate in this spot. He's the number 6 because he just doesn't look quite as fast as those 2 California shippers. And a long shot in this race, the number 8 Wayburn, has also shown some speed in prior races. So perhaps this race could set up for a closer. The question is, who could take advantage of it? Maybe that debut winner, Crowded Trade. We'll get to him in a little bit, though. But I do expect there to be an honest pace in this Gotham. Let's move into those main contenders, beginning with the morning line favorite, the number 3 Highly Motivated. This Chad Brown runner showed a lot of promise last year and has really done nothing wrong so far in his career. Showed ability from day one when he just missed in his debut at Saratoga in the mud. Got a good trip that day, but lost to a Chad Brown trained stablemate. And since then, he's been perfect. I loved his maiden win at Belmont 2 back when he beat the highly regarded Known Agenda, did it impressively. Came right back and made his stakes debut last time out of Keeneland in the Nyquist at the end of his 2-year-old season. Let's take a look at that race. And this was unarguably the best race of Highly Motivated's career. He got another good trip, but he's the kind of horse that tends to make good trips for himself, given his tactical speed and running style, sitting on the inside in the pocket behind these horses on the turn. But once Javier Castellano peeled him out in upper stretch, he just rockets by these horses in the final 1/8 of a mile. And as they come onto the wire, you see that he's continuing to open up on these horses to the finish line. Certainly finished like a horse that shouldn't mind an extra couple of furlongs as he stretches out 1.5 furlongs to try the 1 mile distance here. He is coming off a layoff, but Chad Brown has good numbers coming off breaks like this. I didn't send in a formulator screenshot this week, but I can just cite the numbers for you. Coming off layoffs of 90 to 180 days over the past 5 years in graded stakes dirt races. Chad Brown is 6 for 17, a win percentage of 35% with an ROI that's just above $2. So a lot of horses that are similar prices to what Highly Motivated is going to be, and he just tends to win with these horses. So I think Highly Motivated is very dangerous here. That 108 TimeformUS speed figure that he got in the Nyquist last time, that's among the best numbers in this race, and it totally checks out based on runbacks. The runner-up Quick Tempo came back to win with a 106 TimeformUS speed figure. The 3rd place finisher Roderick came back to win with a 103. Furthermore, going back in field, other horses have come back to win with comparable speed figures. So that number is totally legitimate. And if this horse takes any kind of natural step forward from 2 to 3, I think he's going to be pretty tough to beat in this race. Moving on to the other horse stretching out from sprint races, that being the number 7 Freedom Fighter as he ships to the East Coast for Bob Baffert. And this horse has run well in both career starts. Didn't quite get the job done last time in the San Vicente, but he just ran into a Bob Baffert stablemate that might be a little more talented than he is in Concert Tour. Let's take a look at the stretch run of that race. Now, remember, Freedom Fighter was coming off a layoff here. He had made his debut all the way back in August of his 2-year-old season. So he was coming back off about a 6-month layoff in the San Vicente, and he's very game battling back on the inside of this race. I'll say don't pay any attention to the fractions of this race that are up in the right-hand corner or that you see in your PPs. They're having some trouble timing the 6.5 and 7 furlong races at Santa Anita. They actually went, I think, somewhere in the low 22s for the opening quarter, around 45 flat for the half mile of this race. So Freedom Fighter did set a pretty honest pace on the front end. You see that TimeformUS pace figure color-coded in red at the first call. That's based on the times that Craig got from video. Craig Milkowski, our TimeformUS speed figure maker. So he always times those races from video to double check. And this horse did run a fast race in that 1:13 TimeformUS speed figure that he got. It's legitimate. It checks out. Concert Tour, the winner of that race, he'd run fast already in his debut. And Freedom Fighter was just second best to that horse last time out. The big question for Freedom Fighter, at least for me, is the stretch out in distance, because he's also stretching out like Highly Motivated, but I'm a little more confident in Highly Motivated doing it, given that he's a son of Into Mischief out of a dam that could go at least a mile. And Freedom Fighter, his dam, Canadian Ballet, was just strictly a sprinter, and a turf sprinter at that, who was really best going those 5.5, 6 furlong distances. I'm just a little skeptical that this horse can carry his speed the entire 1 mile distance, especially in a race that's projected to feature a fast pace with other horses likely breathing down his neck in the early going. So I respect this horse's talent, I'm just not quite sold that this is the right spot for him. Another horse that could be forcing the issue on the front end in this race is the number 6 Capo Kane. This was the winner of the local Jerome Stakes, going this exact same distance, though when he won that Jerome 2 back on January 1st, he had a couple things working in his favor. Well, 3 things really. It was a weaker field, but also you see in the TimeformUS PPs on the left side of the screen, a red color-coded race rating box for January 1st. That means that the track was favoring speed that day. And if you look at the charts, you can see that many front-running horses did win that day. Also a blue color-coded pace figure in that race, indicating that the pace was slow. So Capo Kane really had everything his own way when he won that Jerome. Still, though, let's take a look at that race, because he was visually impressive. He took advantage of those favorable circumstances and goes away from this field in the stretch, winning off by over 6 lengths. He did run a reasonably fast race and came back and validated it last time in the Withers when he stretched out to 2 turns going 1 1/8 miles, actually ran the best speed figure of his career, improving on this Jerome performance, even though he lost that race finishing 3rd. 1 1/8 miles, probably a little far for Capo Kane at this stage of his career, so I like that he's turning back in distance to the same 1 mile distance that we're seeing him win at in this Jerome here. The one kind of uncertainty I have about Capo Kane and how he's going to perform in this race is that tendency that you saw in the Jerome, where he was drifting out very badly through the stretch. He did the same thing last time out in the Withers, and I don't like to see that unprofessionalism from these horses as they're lightly raced, even after they have a few starts under their belts. That's just a bad habit of this horse, and if it gets close at the end of this Gotham, sometimes that can be the difference between winning and losing, so I'm a little concerned about that, and also just concerned that maybe Capo Kane is a cut below the top contenders in here, but if he can stalk and get past Freedom Fighter, I'm more confident in him getting this mile distance than Freedom Fighter. Couple other horses to take a look at, one of which is that other California shipper, the number 4, Wipe the Slate, another one of those horses that was shown towards the front end in that TimeformUS pace projector. He was pretty disappointing last time in that Robert B. Lewis behind Medina Spirit, who's one of the horses to beat in the San Felipe this upcoming Saturday at Santa Anita. But prior to that, Wipe the Slate had been very visually impressive, winning a maiden race at Santa Anita. Let's take a look at that race, going 7 furlongs, just a furlong shorter than this Gotham, and he's ranging up on the outside here in that purple cap, taking over at the top of the stretch after getting a stalking trip, and he's going to go away from this field pretty nicely to win off by almost 4 lengths at the wire. The runner-up in this race, Affable, he's run a few decent speed figures in his career, so I guess the figure checks out well enough. You got a 106 TimeformUS speed figure for this, even though it's a bit of an outlier for Wipe the Slate. He was coming off a loss to Life is Good in his prior race. Life is Good, generally considered to be the horse to beat in that aforementioned San Felipe, one of the best horses in Bob Baffert's barn. Certainly one of the best horses on the Kentucky Derby trail moving ahead. So Wipe the Slate's faced very good fields. I think the question for him is, can he get this 1 mile distance? Because he didn't get a route last time out in the Robert B. Lewis. The pace of that race was extremely fast, so he had a right to get tired. But I think the jury's still out on how far this horse wants to go, and if he really stacks up against horses like Highly Motivated and Freedom Fighter from a quality standpoint. One more horse to talk about in this Gotham, who I personally find very intriguing, is that other Chad Brown trainee, the number 5, Crowded Trade. he's more lightly raced than his stablemate Highly Motivated, going out for the exact same connections, owner and trainer. But he looked very good in his debut at Aqueduct. Let's take a look at the stretch run of this race. And we're not going to watch the start, but you do want to note this horse got off to a tangled beginning, was steadied back at the start, lost about 3 lengths of position coming out of the gate. So he definitely had some ground to make up coming into the stretch, and he does it very impressively. The horse that's on the lead here, Hyperactive Chris, another first-time starter, he had gotten away at the 3/16 pole. Looked like he was en route to victory, but look at Crowded Trade just relentlessly running after this horse as they come to the wire, and he's going to reel him in right around the 16th pole and get past him as they come to the finish line. Both of these horses gallop out strongly. I like that effort from Crowded Trade. The problem is that was just 6 furlongs in his debut. I know Chad Brown had originally wanted to run this horse in a non-winners of one allowance race off that effort, and given that this Gotham was coming up with a small field, he put him in here instead. We'll see if he actually runs on Saturday. But I think he's a horse that down the line ultimately could have this kind of talent, and I'm not that concerned about him stretching out in distance because More Than Ready is a versatile sire, and his dam, Maud S., she was a stakes-winning dirt router herself, so there is pedigree to go longer distances. It's just, are the connections asking too much too soon of a horse who ran well in his only career start? I'm not sure about it. I think he can do well in this race, and given the fact that he closed in his debut and the pace projector is showing a race that's likely to feature a fast pace, he might work out the right trip. Let's throw out my picks for this race, and I'm going to stick with Chad Brown. If you've been paying attention to Aqueduct this winter, it's been hard to beat Chad Brown in really any situation. He's winning at a near 50% clip. But I'm going to go the less creative route and put his favorite, Highly Motivated, on top. I was a big fan of this horse when he's competing as a 2-year-old. I liked him in the Nyquist. He exceeded my expectations that day, winning impressively with a big speed figure. If he can take a step forward first off the layout for Chad Brown, I think he's going to be pretty tough for this field to beat. But I do have respect for the other Chad Brown runner, the number 5 Crowded Trade. I think he could move forward out of that debut, so I've got him in the second slot. And I'd also use horses like Capo Kane and Freedom Fighter underneath and defensively in multi-race wagers. But to me, I prefer the 2 Chad Brown runners in this Gotham Stakes on Saturday at Aqueduct.